Hey all you super players out there, it's nice to see you again. Sorry I've been gone for a couple days, I was a little under the weather, but I'm back now and I'm excited to start making more videos for you. Today we're looking at the Set 11 Baby Spirit of the Truffles deck. I'm super excited for this deck, I think it looks really cool. I always like more control tempo style decks, which is what this definitely is. I've built mine a little differently than a lot of the other people's have. For example, I'm not playing the 5-drop baby or that kind of engine. I'm more going for a go wide with like an Android 17 finish. But I'm going to kind of go over my choices since there's quite a few ways you could actually make this deck, which is surprising given how like narrow the constraints are. So those of you that don't know, the way this deck works is when you play your leader, you get to start with this Planet Truffle card in play. And as long as you have this field in play, the counter skills of your mono blue cards with energy cost 5 or less get reduced by 1. And then if you want, you can add a life to your hand and then put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. We won't be doing that too often in this version. We're mostly just using it for that counter, be able to play our counters for less. And on the flip side, he has Overlord. When he attacks, draw a card, and then once per turn, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 mono blue counter skill among them, then place the remaining cards at the bottom, then choose 1 card in your hand and place it on the bottom. So he still draws when he attacks, but you can filter out a counterplay that you want from the top of your deck as well. First off, I want to go over the unisons I'm playing. We're playing 4 copies of Janemba, Wicked Agent of Destruction. The reason we're playing this one is because we want to be able to play Trunks God Sealing technique. This is still probably the best counter in the game. Even though like the cost reduction doesn't really matter so much, we have ways to search it out, which is really nice. And we want to just kind of keep our Janemba up and make critical attacks on our opponent and be able to play our counters. The reason we're playing this over something like a Zeno is because we want it to have that 15k power where it's actually kind of difficult for our opponent to remove, rather than something like a Zeno where our opponent can just attack it a bunch of times. This deck makes it harder to do that, but we don't get a whole lot out of the extra energy on our turn anyways, since for the most part we're going to be playing cards on our opponent's turn. I'm also playing 2 Baby the Unknown Parasite. The real reason we have this in there is basically just for the draw power. So it's a 3-cost blue 15k that gets a +2 active main draw card. So this is just going to be really sticky and hard for our opponent to get rid of, and it's going to allow us to draw an extra card every turn, which is going to allow us to defend ourselves. It does have a -5 that allows us to play a counter for free by discarding 2 cards until the end of our opponent's turn. Are we going to use that a whole lot? Probably not, since this version doesn't play the big 5-drop baby, and that's kind of what it's for. It's mostly just here to just be a big draw engine and to have more unisons for our God Sealing Technique Trunkses. This deck plays a whole lot of negates. It plays 4 Dimension Magic, 2 Baby the Body Snatcher, which, keep in mind, all these 2-cost negates or quasi-negates are all 1 cost for us because of Planet Truffle. This one is a negate and then allows it to untap a blue energy, so it's a free negate. Bulla is a 1-cost negate for us that has Servant, so it's a 15k 1-cost negate. Mafuba isn't technically a negate, but it stops battle card attacks, and it only costs us 1, which is really powerful. Meteor Bobbing and Weaving is a really important card in this deck. Just like the Baby the Body Snatcher, it is a 1-cost negate that untaps a blue energy. So basically, whenever our opponent attacks, we can play a 1-cost 15k attacker for free and stop their attack. So this card is really, really important. A lot of turns, you're just going to slamming a bunch of these down. What we're trying to do, basically, is build a board while denying our opponent a board and just starving them out of resources. For our super combo, I'm playing Vegeta Disciplined Warrior. This is a new super combo in the new set. It's if your life is at 4 or less and all your energy is blue when you use this card in a combo, you get plus 10k. Then you can choose 1 card in your hand, place it at the bottom of your deck. If you do, draw 2 cards. So, excuse me, it allows us to basically discard 1, draw 2 with our super combo. Let's see, more negate for attack. I think that's all we have. And then we also play 3 Senzu Beans just for defensive options. Dr. Mayu is just a card where we play it, look at the top 3, and a mono blue card with counter skill add in their hand. I believe more than half of our deck is mono blue cards with counter skills. So this should pretty much always hit. The other thing we're going to be doing a lot with our counters is stopping our opponent from playing cards. Baby the Diabolic Parasite costs 2 for us. Play this card, counterplay, play this card, switch up to one of your mono blue energy to active mode. If the battle card being played is 4 or less, it's placed at the bottom of its deck instead of being played. This also has Overlord. We do have some servants in Bola, and I think there's one more. Yep, Goten. So being able to use our Overlord ability to draw extra cards with those is also very nice. It also recycles them back into our deck so we can use them later. But so this is any 4 costs or less they play, pay 2, put it on the bottom of the deck. Goten does the same thing, but instead of being a 19k with Overlord, it's a 20k servant. Artificial Life Form is a counter, which, depending on the deck and your local meta, this may be better or worse. If your leader card is mono blue, switch up to one of your mono blue energy to active mode, then play this card. If your leader card is a blue baby card, when this card is played, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and place it at the bottom of its owner's deck. So is to counter for 3, which a lot of times is actually going to be on our turn. Things like when we attack and our opponent plays a negate, we're going to want to slam down Artificial Life Form, which will essentially only cost us 2 because we'll get to untap 1 right away, and we'll get to put a battle card on the bottom of their deck. At a pinch, we could also theoretically play this for 4 on our turn, just to get rid of something, but you shouldn't be doing that too often. Baby the Saiyan Slayer. This is a 3 cost. It is a double strike, 20k. It has counter attack, negate this attack and play this card. Or it has counter, play this card. Active main once per turn if your leader card is blue baby card. You look at the bottom card of your deck if it's a mono blue card with counter. Energy cost less than or equal to your current energy. Other than this card, you may play it, otherwise return it to the bottom of your deck. So this is another one where a lot of times when we attack and our opponent drops a negate, we're going to drop this. It doesn't actually stop the negate. It allows us to play this card and then immediately look at the bottom card of our deck, and if it's a mono blue counter, we just get to play it for free, which a lot of this deck is. One important thing with this is I believe he can get himself. Yeah, I don't see anything on here saying otherwise, so you can also stack multiple copies of this. We can also put our things like Bullet at the bottom with Servant and Overlord, and then immediately flip them back to our field. We're playing one of Ultra Instinct Goku the Unstoppable. This card's just a really generically good card and it only costs us 3. Hi. Excuse me, still got a little bit of that cough going. Oh, feeling much better, but it's still there a little bit. Ultra Instinct Goku the Unstoppable. Yeah, so it's a 3 cost. The skills can't be negated. It bounces a card, and we draw a card. It's just really good against like random things like Secret Rares and other things that we might otherwise have a little bit of difficulty getting rid of. Things with deflect that we can't, like God Seal and things like that. It's just a really solid card. Fortunately, this deck, I'm having a real problem fitting things. It's still 54 cards, I believe, and I'd like to get it down to around 50. So if any of you have any ideas about good things to cut, please let me know. Hit Deadly Vanguard. This is one of the best cards in the deck, like 100%. It only costs, so it's a 5 cost 15k, but since during your opponent's turn, it gets reduced by 2, and then due to our Planet Truffle, it gets reduced by a 3rd one, so this is 2 cost. Counterplay if the card being played has energy cost 5 or less, return to its owner's hand instead of being played, then play this card. It can't be returned to your hand by skills, which in some version of this deck, this would matter. I don't have anything that bounces. And then when it's played, choose one of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost of 5 or less and return it to its owner's hand. So not only does this come down, stop our opponent from playing something, it also bounces something that they've already played. So it's like a 2-for-1 board swing. And that's really, really important, and the fact that we get it for 2 energy is really critical. But one of the big things this does is it gets around Obuni, which is something this deck otherwise would have a really big problem with because Obuni has deflect, and it forces us to... So, like, we can't counter it or anything, and it puts a lot of guys on board, which is, like, the number one thing we don't want our opponent to be doing. But what you can do with Hit, because of the way he works, is on the trigger that they put their tokens in play, because you can't hit the Obuni because it has deflect. But what you can do is when they trigger to put their tokens in play, you simply play Hit, then their battle cards will be bounced to their hand, or their tokens will be bounced to their hands. They won't be played. He'll come down. Then with his auto skill, you can bounce the Obuni back to their hand. So this is a way to actually counter Obuni going through deflect, which is very, very important for this deck. Trunks God Sailing, pretty explanatory. Best counter in the game. Android 17, Turning the Tide. So this is kind of our end game. If we can't starve our opponent out through attacking, because your opponent's going to have a big hand. Because most of our effects are like bounce effects or returning cards to their hand. And we need a way to either to get rid of those cards in their hand, which we can do either by attacking, by doing things like playing a bunch of Mechyorps and counters and just swinging and forcing them to use those cards to defend themselves. Or we can drop an Android 17 late in the game and put their hand back to their deck. And the key thing about this is you have to have properly controlled the field the whole game in order for this to be worth it, because you lose your hand as well. So you need to be in a position where your opponent has 1 or 0 battle cards and you have 3 or 4, and you can drop Turning the Tide and just kill them, which may or may not be possible depending on the deck, but it's something to think about. Basically, as this game goes, you're going to be wanting to countering your opponent, not letting them put anything on the board, and then starving them out by attacking them with your Mechyorps and your like Bullet Babies minions, your cheap like 1-cost things that you can play, clearing boards with Hit Deadly Vanguard and the babies and the bigger things. Basically, with this deck, it's very strong, but you have to stay ahead. If you let your opponent get ahead of you, you're going to have a really, really hard time winning the game. But if you can stay ahead of your opponent, there's not really much they can do about it, because you're just going to simply counter every card they play past a certain turn. That being said, it's a really cool deck. I'm excited to see what you guys think of my build. It's definitely a more tempo-based build, not playing the 5-drop baby or like the bigger, huge counter plays. I think is more realistic, though, with how fast this game is going. I don't think you're going to have enough time to kind of play those cards. And getting this to 5 and minusing it by 5 isn't reliable enough, I don't think, to have that actually be your win condition. I think playing a bunch of cheap guys, just countering all your opponent's cards, and then if you need to, dropping a 17 late is kind of more how this deck is going to be able to win. I'm currently only playing 1 Planet Truffle. I might have to end up siding some, because I'm semi-worried about if this deck gets popular, one of the ways to actually kind of beat it is to play cards that actually kill fields. Because unlike most of the other decks that start with fields in play, there isn't a way to protect this one in the deck. So that's something to think of as well. But yeah, what do you guys think? Do you like my build? Do you think that this is it'd be possible to just keep your opponent off stuff the whole game, basically? Or do you think I'm being unrealistic and that people are just going to be going wide too fast for this deck to kind of keep up? Yeah, please like, subscribe, go out there, play some Super, have some fun. We're almost at 600 subscribers. Remember, I'm giving away that 2020 Series 1 pack, so if you're not subbed, please do for a chance to win that. Go out there, play some Super, and have some fun.